is a bloody terrifying figure, isn't it? But it can happen, and it does happen. And if you haven't seen this video yet, then you can check that out and you'll see that it happens. Right now, I'm going to tell you how it happens, why it happens, when it happens, and don't click away before the end because I'm also going to tell you what you should do instead. So what I'm showing you here are the first 2 years in the life of a micro. I have thought of a micro BNC, so that's a service industry, and it's somebody who generally has minimum overheads, and they also get that 34% tax abatement when income tax is being calculated. You can just as easily do this exercise for a micro BIC. There'll be higher real overheads, and there'll be a 50% tax abatement when calculating income tax. So in this first year, I have given you 35,000 euros turnover, chiffre d'affaires. Remember that in your first year of activity, your turnover is prorated. So if you set up in September and you invoice 35,000 euros between September and December, then you're already over the limit. Like, well done and everything, but you're already over the limit. If you set up any time in the first half of the year and in your first year you invoice 35,000 euros, then you're fine. In a micro, you cannot deduct real expenses, but obviously you do have them, and we can't forget about them. If we're talking about somebody who's working from home online, then I actually think this figure's pretty high. It's 25%, but I prefer to be generous with it, and then you can always lower it or raise it, whatever adapts to your particular activity. For the moment, this line is blank, and out of your 35,000, URSSAF are going to take this, and income tax are going to take this. I'm not making this up. This is, you can go to the simulator on the URSSAF website and type in your figures. This is exactly what they'll give you. So URSSAF income tax, that makes your total charges 8,591. And if you deduct your real expenses and your total charges from your 35,000, then over 12 months, you'll be left with 1,472 euros net each month. And maybe that's absolutely fine for you. Maybe that's all you want to earn. Maybe that's all you need to earn. But if you want to go further than that, if you want to grow, if you are an ambitious and talented micro, and in year 2, or maybe it's year 3 or year 4, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that you get to this, you go just over the micro limit, 78,000 euros. I've increased the real expenses slightly, but not proportionately, because in this instance, I just don't think they would increase proportionately. So I've gone up to 10,000 euros. URSSAF's going to take 16,614 and income tax 9,038 if you're a single person with no dependents. Total charges are pretty significant, 25,652. But even then, it's going to leave you with net in your pocket 3,529. If you're not in a big city in France, that's a fairly decent income. Now, at this point, you need to ask yourself 2 questions. The first question is, was this a freak good year? If it was a freak good year, okay, stick with your micro, don't panic. But if it was not a freak good year, if you know that your customer base has grown, if you know that next year is going to be just as good, if not bigger and better, then now is the time that you need to think about leaving your micro. Don't wait any longer. I'm going to show you why. And the second question that you need to ask yourself is, how much money do I actually need every month? Do I need this 3,529? Could I actually be fine if I only had 3,000? You just need to know the answer to that question, because otherwise, if you carry on with your micro, then you're going to do a huge chiffre d'affaires, enormous chiffre d'affaires, and you're going to end up, I'm going to show you how you're going to end up. You're going to end up like this. Now, here I've gone up enormously. Year 3, I've gone up to 120,000 euros. I've increased the real expenses, again, only slightly. If you're still working the same way, they're not going to go up by that much. But URSSAF are going to take this enormous amount of money from you, and the income tax, 17,423. From your turnover, you're going to lose straight away nearly 43,000 euros. And net in your pocket, you're going to have 5,334. Now, that's still pretty good. You might think, I don't mind losing that if I can still have 5,334 euros in my pocket. But I'm going to show you a better way of managing your money. And just before I do that, I'd like to quickly thank every one of you who have already subscribed to the channel. It supports the channel, obviously, but more than that, it encourages me and reassures me that there are so many of you who take your businesses here seriously. You are not prepared to just muddle through and hope that everything turns out okay. It won't turn out okay. You do need to educate yourself, but seeing you here, seeing you come back here for each video, it just makes me relieved and glad to know that you are prepared to educate yourselves. You're prepared to spend a little bit of time just finding out, working out, knowing the information that you need to make your business succeed. And what I would say is not only thank you for subscribing, but let's see if we can just get this to go a bit further. The tendency to, especially here in France, to kind of keep information for ourselves, there's a tendency to think, if I give it away, then somehow there'll be less left over for me. Now, I don't believe that. I think that when we share things, they come back to us multiplied many times over. So let's pay it forward. Let's try and help out those around us and share this information as widely as possible. Now I'm going to show you what you should be doing with your money instead of staying in that micro. So here we are in year 4. You've been automatically booted out of the micro because you went over the limit 2 years consecutively. But in any case, you should have gone after this year. What you've decided to do very wisely is set up a limited company that declares company tax and not income tax. If you are a single person with no dependents, there is no way on earth you should be choosing to pay income tax if you can choose to pay company tax. So you've set up a limited company and you've had exactly the same turnover, 120,000. I've put your real expenses up a little bit. You've had to pay an accountant to set up your company. I'm sure that we can find you some more expenses, which is what we want to do to lower your company tax liability. But in any case, if you're giving you 15,000 and you have decided to give yourself a remuneration of 65,000 euros, so your social charges and your income tax will be based on your 65,000 euros. And you can see that your URSAF is already nearly 5,000 euros less than it was last year when you were in a micro. And your income tax is way less than half of what it was last year when you were in a micro. Your total charge is 28,216 as opposed to 42,983. And you still have 3,065 euros net in your pocket each month, but you still have 40,000 euros in the company. Now at this point, you're going to say to me, yeah, but they're in the company. What use is that to me? If I want to take them out, then they're going to charge me social charges. They're going to charge me income tax. I can't take the money out of the company. What advantage is that? Well, happily, there are lots and lots of ways that you can take that money out of the company without it costing you social charges, sometimes without it costing you income tax. So if you want to see that video, I haven't made it yet, but I will. And in the meantime, if you want to find out more about the different kinds of companies that are available to you, then you need to watch this video. You need to watch this video if you haven't already seen it, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the other one when it comes out. I think that our next video is going to be another interview, but I need to confirm that, and I'll put it up here on the channel as soon as it's done. Have a great week.